If this hadn't happened to me, I probably wouldn't believe it, but it's true. So I delayed surgery so I wouldn't miss work. Then a few days later, I woke up in a hospital bed, barely alive and with a pink slip in my hand. The same people I nearly died trying not to disappoint fired me while I was still recovering. They said, "Do what you need to do. We got you covered." And I believed them. What I didn't realize was that the red flags were there all along. I'm going to show you everything I ignored before it cost me nearly everything. In late July, I had a kind of a mild stomach ache, nothing to really think too hard about, just a regular old stomach ache. I didn't give it any thought. It lasted for maybe an hour or so, then went away. Then it came back a few days later with a slight pain in my lower right abdomen. Just a curious pain, and I didn't think anything of it. When I pressed it, it didn't hurt. If I pressed really, really hard, it might have registered a 5. But again, I didn't give it any thought. You know, I come from the land of, you must have got a hold of some bad pork. So that's what I thought. And so I took a couple of Tylenols and it went away, and I was fine. The next day, the pain came back. So a little backstory. Years ago, I had something called diverticulosis. Those of you who have had it know what I'm talking about. It's just kind of a lower GI thing. You kind of feel blah. It's just like a low-grade stomach ache, and you just got to deal with it. There's really no treatment for it. You just got to wait for it to pass. And it takes a couple of weeks, and it goes away on its own. So it felt just like the diverticulosis that I had years ago. So I said, "Oh, it's diverticulosis. It'll go away." Um, at the same time, right around this time, I had some PTO coming up in late July, last week of July, first week of August, that so I can go to a family reunion on the other side of the country. I didn't want to miss it because last year I missed the reunion because the day before I was due to drive to it, I tested positive for COVID. I had never had COVID before. So I'm like, man, all these years I never had it. Now I get it. So naturally, I didn't go to the reunion. Then this year, the day before I'm supposed to drive out, I started feeling really weird, like slightly feverish and just low energy. And I'm like, oh no, not again. So I ran and grabbed a home test kit for COVID. It came back negative, and I said, hallelujah. I'm going to the reunion. Um, so I was going to drive up to the reunion. I'm one of those weirdos that I just like driving. So it was 600 or 700 miles. To me, that's therapy, right? I love long road trips. So I'm ready to go. The only symptoms I'm really feeling at this point is I just had a total loss of appetite. Just wasn't hungry at all. Wanted nothing to do with food. You could put it in front of me, and I just wasn't eating. It just I had no appetite. So for probably at that point a week and a half, I had probably eaten total a whole plate of food, just a bite or two every day. I thought it was the Ozempic. I didn't give me any thought. But as a result, I'm really losing a lot of energy, right? And at the same time, and again, I wasn't really thinking about it then, but in retrospect, I wasn't drinking a lot, so I wasn't getting a lot of fluids in, which affects your electrolytes, which affects your cognition and your thinking, and so my judgment really wasn't where it was supposed to be. But the strangest thing at this point, and again, I didn't know I was really sick. I thought it was just diverticulosis. I had this weird, weird feeling that I had never had before. I just had this strange sense I was dying. And I thought it was just me being silly in my head or whatever. But it's a sense, like I just knew it without knowing it, right? Coincidental at the same point in time, because again, I didn't know how sick I really was. My organs were failing. Again, I didn't know this before I jumped on a long road trip. I'm going, right? So my organs were failing, which probably contributed to something in my body, in my mind, my spirit, whatever, telling me that you're dying, right? So all of this lack of eating, lack of water, and so forth, kind of this leads to really poor decision making and judgment, right? So now I've got all these things compounding. Got to the reunion, got to see my family. It was wonderful. They had all my favorite foods. My sister was like the soul food queen, and she had all my faves out there, right? And I was there for the whole day. I didn't have one bite of food, while there's mountains of fried chicken surrounding me, right? I literally had one Coke Zero, and it took me all day to get that in. Still, at this point, because my judgment's off, I'm not thinking, man, there's something seriously wrong, right? I'm just thinking, okay, it's diverticulosis and the Ozempic, it'll go away, I'll be okay. So I got back to work from reunion on a Tuesday. Felt bad. When I say I felt bad, I mean that I didn't feel physically bad. It's just that my cognition and my ability to think was so far off at this point. I was terrified that anybody at my job would even try to talk to me because I wasn't sure what I was going to say. And by now, I'm like, maybe there's something more than this diverticulosis. It's been going a couple of weeks, but again, the judgment's really off at this point. So the first day back was a Tuesday. I'm just praying no one says anything. By the grace of God, people largely let me alone. They said, hey, he's probably just catching up on his emails and everything. So that was cool. Wednesday comes along. I'm a little bit better, but not much better. I had some meetings with my boss and everything, and my boss pulled me aside after one of the meetings. He said, hey, man, are you okay? And I said, no, I don't think I am. But I said, there's something wrong with my gut. He said, well, why don't you try the urgent care? I'm like, I don't want to go to urgent care. Because I had told him if I got to make an appointment with the doctor, I got to wait 2 weeks to get in. Then they got to send you off for tests. And 3 weeks later, you might hear something. I said, whatever it is, it'll pass by then. But, on the way home from work, I thought, well, maybe I'll go to the ER. 'Cause at least that way, I knew the ER right away when I told them I hadn't had anything to drink. I knew they'd give me IV. I knew they'd run a CAT scan. So I got home, got myself together, went over to the ER, and for like the first time in my life, the ER was empty. I've never seen that. Like, never, ever seen, like, literally not one person. It was spooky as in there. I thought the zombie apocalypse had happened because there was no one in there. I literally never sat down. I walked in, gave my ID, gave my insurance, walked straight back to get my vitals taken, then straight back to my own ER room where, they started the whole evaluation and examination. So like I thought, they put me on IV right away, and I immediately started feeling 100% better. I'm like, oh, cool, I'm fine, I'm great. I'm like, just, give me the antibiotics, let me go home. The doctor said, yeah, we're still going to run a CAT scan. I said, oh, yeah, do the CAT scan. I'm thinking the CAT scan's going to come back negative, and they'll just give me, some antibiotics. I had the IV. I'm ready to go. The doc comes back after the CAT scan, and he told me that I had a ruptured appendix. Naturally, I was stunned. I'm sure some of you already out there, saying, yeah, I knew it was an appendix. I didn't know. I never felt a thing. And he said, how did you not notice? I said, I never felt anything. And he said, well, do you have a high tolerance for pain? I said, not that I know of. I said, I strain like anybody else if something hurts. I said, I don't have a high tolerance for pain. I didn't know what was going on. He said, yeah, well, we're going to keep you overnight. And I'm stunned. I'm processing all this and trying to make sense of it. Again, still not thinking clearly, trying to think, is this man just like lying to me? I mean, I'm not thinking clearly at this point or logically. So he says, we're going to keep you overnight, and they're going to rush you into surgery the next day, tomorrow morning. My head's spinning at this point. So the next day, the surgeon comes in, really nice surgeon, kind of a funny guy, as a matter of fact. He walked in. If you've ever seen Morgan Freeman in Stand By Me, he looked exactly like Morgan Freeman in Stand By Me, down to he had the hat on and everything. Now I'm looking at I had a little bit of trouble because he looked literally like Morgan Freeman from Stand By Me, and he walked over and introduced himself. Very nice guy. And, he's kind of interrogating me about this, right? And he said he looked at my CAT scans. He says, this whole area in your stomach, he said, it's a mess. He said, looks like your appendix exploded. And I'm going, thanks for that, doc. That's exactly how I need to hear it described. And he goes into some gross stuff about the infected abscesses were all over the place and all that. He said, your colon's wrapped around some of the abscesses. He said, we may have to remove part of your colon. At this point, I'm perking up. Tell me more. Because I don't know much about, I'm not a stomach doctor, right? I don't know about, colon things. And all I could think of was, well, wait a minute now, doc. I said, if you have to take part of my colon. You want to give me one of those colostomy bags? Now, if you ever ask somebody a question about anything, and you already know the answer you want to hear, and they already know the answer you want to hear, and you want to immediately hear them blur, oh, no, 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 nothing of the sort. That was exactly where I was. I'm like, Doc, this is the time for you to be immediately saying, oh, heck no, you don't need to close me. But he sat back and went, that pause lasted about a half a second too long. He didn't blurt out no. After he took that longer than desired pause, he said, no, 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 that won't be necessary. Like, Doc, look here, we're going to work on your bedside manner. This was the time for you to be blurting no, not pausing. So, anyway, they took me in, get me ready for the prep, shoot me full of sedatives, and one person comes in and says, hey, I'm going to verify that you're okay being an organ donor. I'm like, yeah, it's on my license, I'm an organ donor. He says, and also that, you'd be okay with a blood transfusion. I'm going, blood transfusion? I've never been asked that question before. She said, yeah, kind of might need to happen. I'm like, okay, I'm signing this thing. Then, not even 10 minutes later, a different person comes in, asks me the same two questions. I'm like, wait a minute. I know I got some sedatives in me, but I remember what happened 10 minutes ago. Someone just asked me about organ donors. I said, oh, yeah, we need double verification. I said, double verification? So yeah, would you just sign here? I'm like, yeah, I'm still okay with it, but two people needing to verify. I'm like, this is getting kind of serious. And so now I'm a little bit more nervous than I was to begin with. Again, all this is happening in a matter of hours. So I don't have much time to think about it, process it. My wife's running home from work. She didn't know what was going on. So she wanted to be there and so forth. Thankfully, she was there. And the surgery went okay. They wake me up. They said, yeah, way to take some of your colon, but everything's cool. And I'm all groggy. I got stuff hooked up everywhere, right? And I hadn't eaten in days. And at the end of that day, they were able to finally give me some broth. That was the best broth I've ever had in my entire life. I didn't know broth could taste so good, right? So they sent me home with a note, talking about the recovery and that type of thing. At this point, I've been texting back and forth with my job, letting them know everything, what's going on. And they're like, yeah, whatever you need, we got you, you're cool. I get home, I'm just barely home. And still got stuff hooked up because they had to take this thing, I forgot what it's called, like a little, it's like a balloon. It's collecting gook from inside your guts. And that's still hooked up in me. They take it out later. It's gone now, thank God. But yeah, I'm still on pain pills and everything. And they called, give me the whole, needs of the business, we're moving in a different direction. What? I said, wait a minute, you called me to tell me what? Yeah, timing's everything. I'm thinking, yeah, time to punch you in the throat is right about now. But anyway, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm going, you all know I almost died putting this off so I could be a good soldier and come to work every day and lead from the front. I said, you all know that I literally nearly gave my life for this job, and you're calling to tell me, oh, well, timing's everything? The reality of it is, the place I worked at, they hated when you took time off. Even when I had PTO, I had it. They look at you sideways for taking PTO. That was part of your benefit package. And I knew that coming back from PTO and going to the hospital a couple of days later would not look good. Sure enough, they whacked me. So what's the moral of this story? My job had this saying that, an employee's greatest ability is availability. And I let that saying almost lead me to the grave. And I would say to anybody watching, please remember that when it's all said and done, your job didn't really care that much. Don't get me wrong, I don't mean that they're bad people or anything like that, right? I'm just saying at the end of the day, the job's only thinking about the job. And even if you literally give your life, or almost give your life, too bad, so sad. Timing's everything. So gave me a lesson that I needed to learn because I thought I was a loyal, good soldier. I expected to come back to a parade and balloons, and I didn't get to go back. Um, Now, that's not to disparage anybody or anything. I'm just telling you the facts. The facts as they occurred. You all decide whether it's a bad look for them or not. I'm just telling you the facts as I experienced them. But I want y'all to remember it's about your family, it's about your faith, and it's about you. Don't put yourself in a situation where no matter how hard you think you work, and I come from that high work ethic generation where we put it in, right? Um, don't think you're impressing anybody by putting your health at risk. All right. So that's all I got to say. This is DOG. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you later. Bye.